If you're anything like me, the worst abuser you will ever encounter lives inside of your own mind. And that's not to say that we haven't faced plenty of it out there. I have, I'm sure you have too. But if I'm being completely honest, nobody is worse to me than me. I know that the idea of being your own worst enemy is not exactly some groundbreaking new principle, but I do think that people severely underestimate just how damaging of a cycle it is to be your own abuser. When somebody else treats you terribly, there is at least theoretically ways that you can get away from them or escape them. They're not with you all the time. You can create some space, you can create some separation, you can potentially ignore them. There is no escape from yourself. There is literally nowhere to hide from the person who just won't let up. You also know everything about yourself. Other people can only use what you give them to hurt you. But what happens if your greatest antagonist knows literally everything about you? Every secret, every failure, every horrible impulse that you've ever had and didn't act upon, and decides to use absolutely all of it against you. When we cannot escape pain, we give up on trying to escape pain. And when we cannot escape from ourselves, we give up on ourselves. Giving up on ourselves can look like a lot of different things. It can look like a general withdrawal from life, a loss of interest in pursuing one's own goals or trying to do anything. It can look like regulating behaviors like addictions and disordered eating. It can look like self-harm. It can look like fantasies of suicide, and it can even look like actions relating from those fantasies of suicide. If this sounds like you so far, you need to understand two things. One, you have a relationship with yourself. I know that might sound a little weird because it's only one person, but you absolutely do have a relationship with yourself. You talk to yourself. You think about yourself. You spend time with yourself. That is a relationship. The second is that your relationship with yourself generally follows the same patterns and the same rules as your relationships with other people. This is really, really important to understand because there is not a ton of resources out there designed to help people improve their relationships with themselves. However, there is a tremendous wealth of information out there about how to improve our relationships with other people. And if we want to stop giving up on ourselves so easily, we need to learn how to modify and improve our relationship with ourselves. We can do this by using the same principles that we use to improve our relationships with other people and graft them into our inner dialogue, the way we treat ourselves, the way we think about ourselves, and the way we respond to ourselves. When it comes to relationships, John Gottman is about as reliable a source as it gets. He is a psychologist. He is one of the most world-renowned experts on relationships. And he developed a model that he calls the 4 Horsemen that predicts divorce rates with 93% accuracy. So this is a pretty legit thing. I believe that this very same model, these same 4 Horsemen, also accurately describes the downfall of our relationship with ourselves. And that the solutions that help people get out of these cycles that I'm about to describe to you are also the same solutions we can apply internally to stop being so horrible to ourselves all the time. So, Gottman's 4 horsemen of the downfall of a romantic relationship are 1. Criticism. This is when someone does something that displeases us, and rather than discussing the behavior as an acute, singular thing that happened, we actually end up attacking the person's character instead. This looks like use of overgeneralizing statements, saying you always do this, you never do this. There tends to be a lot of assumption of intent. So we know this thing happened, but we don't know why, and we feel like we know why, and we really assume the worst in people. You did this because you don't care, or you didn't do this because you don't love me. And criticism tends to create shame and withdrawal rather than meaningful behavioral change and improvements in the quality of the relationship. So let's walk through a quick example. Let's say that your partner did not text you back as quickly as they normally do. Let's say they left you on read. They read it and they replied like a while later. And a non-critical response to that would be, hey, I was kind of worried about you. You didn't text me back as quickly as you normally do. Versus a critical response would be, you never think about my feelings. You weren't considering how that would make me feel. We make a lot of assumptions about why the person did or didn't do whatever they did or didn't do. Criticism leads to the second horseman, which is defensiveness. So defensiveness is a response to criticism because we feel that our character is attacked, because we feel that this person is misunderstanding where we're coming from or thinking things about us that aren't true. We feel like we have to defend ourselves. We feel like we have to set the record straight. And in doing so, we often end up deflecting, making excuses, playing innocent, or maybe even trying to reverse blame. So we're kind of dodging or avoiding this concern that the person is trying to lay on us, and we're either just sidestepping it or putting it back on them. So same example. Maybe the person who took a while to text back says, I can't always text you back as quickly as you want me to because you text me too often. So you see what happened there is this person was made to believe that their behavior was the problem. And not only did they not accept, hey, maybe I could have responded to you sooner, they said, actually, you're the problem. And if you stopped doing what you're doing, this wouldn't be happening in the first place. Defensiveness leads to the third horseman, which is contempt. And so contempt is when we actually start to lose respect for the person. We start to actually lack goodwill or positive regard for them, and we start to become very frustrated, very disenchanted with them, and we struggle to have the feelings of like admiration or love or caring that we once did. This can come across verbally with insults or shaming or judgment. It can involve name calling. It can involve mocking. Non-verbally, it can be, eye rolls and, very cross body language posture to clearly show like, I'm really just not caring about what you have to say right now. Contempt leads to the four horsemen, which is stonewalling. This is when a person senses that they have basically lost the positive regard of the partner, and they think, I probably can't get that back. This is probably just it. Like, we're just screwed. We've reached a point of no return. And so they just begin to withdraw from the relationship emotionally, verbally, physically. They shut down. They stop responding, or they give just very minimal responses. They're not emotionally reactive anymore. They become very callous, and they're just kind of over it at that point. So that's the four horsemen in a relational context, as in two people in a relationship with one another. Let's look at how that same sequence of events can play out in our relationship with ourselves. Let's say that you have just experienced a breakup, and you are trying to understand the breakup. You're trying to figure out what went wrong, what happened, what role did I play in this relationship not working out. And let's say your theory is that you were too needy. That's kind of the belief system in your head that you think it probably has something to do with this. This idea that you are too needy can very easily morph into criticism, right? So that could sound like you always do this, you always want too much, you drive people away, your feelings are just too big for other people to handle, like you screwed this up, basically. You screwed this up by being you. So rather than trying to find something actionable or applicable, you just criticize yourself, you just start attacking your own character, and this understandably makes you defensive in your own inner dialogue because you also know that you didn't choose to be a highly emotionally reactive person. You were just born with maybe a stronger level of feeling than what most people have. And so this negative appraisal really hurts you deeply because it's coming from someone who you know gets it. And you are fully aware that this is not a conscious choice that you made. So you start to get defensive towards the inner critic in your own mind. And maybe in your inner dialogue, you say something like, well, my emotions aren't my fault. I didn't choose to be born with a brain that feels things so strongly, a stupid brain. I didn't pick it. If I could have picked it, I would have picked a different one. And if other people were a little more sensitive, instead of me being expected to be a little less sensitive, maybe I'd be happily married by now. So you can see how this is the deflection, right? This is the it's not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong type of thing. Your inner critic perceives that defensiveness as making excuses or as avoiding reality. So it just cranks it up and it starts moving into contempt. And then you start saying to yourself, yeah, that's right. It's everybody else's fault that you are the way you are. Like that attitude is ever going to get you anywhere. Maybe you should just give up on finding love. You should just be done. This isn't going to happen for you. We've lost respect. We've lost goodwill. We've lost hope. And that leads to the stonewalling. Yeah, You're right. I guess I will just give up on finding love. It's obviously never going to happen for me. And you withdraw. In a romantic relationship, this pattern leads to divorce. Since we cannot divorce ourselves, at least not in a literal sense, this pattern instead leads to dysfunctional behaviors. So again, I mentioned these before. It leads to things like suicidal ideation or suicidal actions. It leads to self-harm and self-punishment behaviors. It leads to substance abuse. It leads to behavioral addictions, disordered eating, shopping, gambling. It leads to withdrawal from life. It leads to giving up on ourselves. It leads to a loss of hope. And it leads to a brick wall that you see no way around or through. These are all ways of stonewalling ourselves and trying to gain separation from the worst bully that we will ever face. The one up here that knows everything and never goes away. So what the heck do we do about this? There's a relatively simple in concept way that we can deal with these four horsemen in our inner relationship with ourselves. Like many things I discuss, this is simple but not easy. It's important to keep it simple because I don't want the answer to be so confusing that you're like, he just explained how I feel, and then the thing he said he did that helped him didn't make any sense to me. So I'm going to explain it simply, but I want you to know I am very aware that what I'm about to describe is a really, really hard thing to do. So me keeping it simple is not me saying, just do this and your life will be better in a week. No, not at all. The two variables that you can modify in your inner relationship with yourself to get out of this four horsemen pattern are high commitment and realistic standards. These are the same variables that improve our relationships with other people. So high commitment essentially means, at least for the time being, that you take your other options off the table. If you're committed to another person, that means you're not also dating other people, or at least for the time being, not considering dating other people, not really thinking about other people. You're like, I need to really give this person a chance and fully experience what it is like to be in a relationship with them. And if we're talking in a marriage context, right, think about the traditional marriage vow in sickness and in health. We're making a commitment to our partner that, hey, things are good right now. It's easy to be happy when things are good. But I want you to know, I'm not just going to bail on you when things get difficult, because I know they will. I know there's going to be tough times, and I'm here for those too. Making a high commitment to yourself means taking giving up off the table. I know that you cannot stop the thoughts or the impulses, but you can choose not to consciously engage with them. You can eliminate withdrawing from your goals and your values. You can eliminate entertaining suicidal ideation. You can eliminate following through on behavioral impulses that you know will harm you. You can decide that no matter what happens and no matter how hard things get, you are not going to abandon yourself. Just like you would not abandon somebody who you truly, deeply love, even if they were going through hard times. There is no reason that you cannot apply that same level of commitment to yourself. And the thing that's getting in the way, most likely, is the contempt. That we don't want to make a commitment to somebody if we don't respect them, if we don't trust them, and if we've lost their goodwill. But the only way out of that is to give them a little bit more than what you think they deserve. I'm going to switch the metaphor a little bit now. Think about, let's say you have a kid, and your kid did something inappropriate on an electronic device. They say they have their own phone, they bought some stuff they shouldn't have, you take the phone away. Reasonable response, right? But they will never be able to regain your trust about using the phone unless at some point you give it back. If you never give them the phone back, then you're stuck. You're stuck in a stonewalling pattern that never improves. And at some point, you have to show them a little bit more than what their last set of actions may have warranted or that you may think they deserve. And you have to see what they do with it. We can do this with ourselves as well. And it requires making a level of commitment to ourselves that we may not feel like we have earned from ourselves. That is the only way to break through the contempt is to give that person another chance and see what they do with it. Now, with that, you need to have realistic standards and expectations for yourself. And this, I think, is where so much of this comes from. We struggle with this with partners too sometimes, but most of us have even higher expectations for ourselves than our partners. And we tend to have, in some way, shape, or form, very unrealistic expectations about what we can do, what time frame we can do it in, what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like. Your problems will not be solved in a day, even if you do everything right. And I know you know that, but you need to know it not just like as a factual piece of information, but as a constant thing in your head. This is a long battle, and you will never fully figure it out. You will never have perfect peace, perfect joy, perfect mental health in this life. It won't happen because it's not a perfect place to be. There will be ups and downs no matter how hard you try, and no matter how many good choices you make. Not everything you do is going to work out. That isn't always your fault. Nobody has a 100% success rate on anything in life. There are also many things that seem like they aren't working until suddenly they are. It's not always this nice, easy upward trajectory where every day you're like, I am getting one step closer to my goals. Very briefly, perfect example of this, literally this YouTube channel. The first 7 months that I had this channel, I was making one long video a week, just as I am right now, and growth was virtually non-existent. I think on average for the first 7 months, I gained like 2 or 3 subscribers a day. There was a couple days, I tried not to check it obsessively, but I usually check it in the morning, at night. There's a couple days where I lost more than I gained. Like I had a net negative day. I had many net negative days. It didn't look like anything was happening until one day it did. A lot of the big picture things we're working on in life are like this. It's not this nice, predictable, constant upward trajectory. It's long plateaus and then jumps up and then long plateaus again. You will probably never fully become the person you want to be because the person you want to be probably isn't real. The person who you wish you could be is probably as close to a perfect person as, I don't even know, I don't know how to finish that sentence, but you know what I'm saying. We want to be all things to all people. We want to be at the top of our game in every domain. We want to be as fit as the fitness influencer and as awesome a parent as the family vloggers, although frankly, it's not a good example because a lot of them have some scandals, but that's not the point. We want to have as much money as the financial gurus and as much fame and success, the celebrities. That's like 9 different people you're trying to be. And none of those people are even the people they appear to be. There's deception and exaggeration in all of this. And even though we know it, we still take it at face value and we think that's possible, so I should be that. Holding yourself to an inhuman bar where you want or even expect to be loved or admired by like most people or more than like 2, and even those 2 aren't going to have it for you all the time, that's not real. That doesn't exist. No one really has that. It will never happen. And not achieving it does not constitute failure. Realize that we are all working with resource constraints. Time, energy, and attention. These things are all preciously limited for each and every one of us. And we all have to make cuts. We all have to make decisions about how to spend them. And we all have to give up on certain things because of that. Like, I wanted to have 9 different jobs when I was a kid. I wanted to be a therapist and a rock star and a pro fisherman and a basketball player, but not, I literally wanted to be all of those. I used to have this fantasy that I'd, go win a fishing tournament and then a helicopter would come fly me to the basketball game and I'd, land on my helipad on the roof. That's a childhood fantasy, obviously, right? But sometimes we don't modify our childhood fantasies as much as we should once we reach adulthood and understand the limitations we're all working with and why people's lives don't actually look that way, because we don't live to be 500 years old and we cannot master all of those things. Our only viable options in this world, this is going to sound super pessimistic, but if you already know me, you hopefully are prepared for that. There's nothing we can do, there's no path available to us where we don't experience suffering. And so experiencing suffering doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. Our choices are, we can experience the meaningful suffering of living a life that is in alignment with our goals and our values, which can be difficult to keep, or we can experience the meaningless suffering of acting out of alignment with our values, not pursuing our goals, and just doing nothing, and stonewalling ourselves because we have contempt for ourselves and giving up. And lastly, with regards to expectations, know that you may have been lied to about some things. We have a lot of commonly repeated cultural sayings, at least here, I'm in the US. I don't know if these are America only sayings or if these are like global. We have a lot of problematic sayings that set people up with really messed up expectations for life. I'm talking about things like, do what you'll love and you'll never work a day in your life, or find the right person and marriage will be easy, or what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. These are lies. Those are all lies. They create unrealistic expectations that then cause us to go down this four horsemen inner spiral, because we think that the fact that our lives don't look the way we thought they were going to look represents personal failure on our part, when it may just represent unrealistic expectations, believing in lies, believing in fantasies, and just not really understanding what this life entails. If you can hold realistic expectations for yourself, know that you're not going to be perfect. Know that you're not going to nail everything. Know that you're going to give up on some things. And remain committed to yourself, highly committed to yourself, despite you not achieving all of the things you want to achieve. And just trying to stay on somewhat of a trajectory with the things that matter most to you, and living in alignment with your values. That is how you can start to undo the damage caused by these inner four horsemen and move away from this desire to get the heck away from this person who you cannot ever really escape from. As always, I hope this helps. I'd love to know how this landed for you in the comments. If you're not already a subscriber, I'd love to have you around so I can see you next time. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.